The cargo freighter's damaged hull plate bent easier than Pip expected, her small claws pried at the gap until it widened, enough for her body to squeeze through. Everything hurt, her left wing dragged. Behind her, the membrane torn where the Raider's net had caught her 3 days ago. Or was it 4 days? Time blurred when you were running and hiding and trying not to die. Inside the ship smelled like oil and metal and something else, something that didn't smell like death. Pip pulled herself through the narrow gap and landed badly on the deck below. Her wings screamed with pain, but she bit down on the sound. Silence meant survival. Mother had taught her that. Before the Raiders came, before everything burned, the space was huge and dark. Pip's eyes adjusted slowly to show her a massive room filled with strange machines and equipment, a hangar bay. She had seen these before on the station where Mother used to trade back when trading was still possible, back when dragons could move freely without being hunted for the calcium compounds in their bones. Pip limped between the machines, looking for somewhere to hide. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She couldn't remember the last time she ate. The emergency supplies in her escape pod had run out after the first jump. After this, she had just kept moving, stowing away on whatever ship would take her farther from the Raiders. That a maintenance panel caught her eye. The grating was loose and the space behind it looked deep enough for her small body. Pip forced herself inside, pulling the grating mostly closed behind her. The metal was cold against her scales, but it felt safer than being exposed. She curled in the tightest ball she could manage and closed her eyes. Sleep came in broken pieces. Every sound made her jerk awake, every vibration through the ship's hull sent panic through her chest, but nothing came for her. Hours passed and the hangar stayed quiet, except for the normal sounds of a docked ship, the hum of life support, the occasional creak of settling metal, the distant voices of station workers somewhere far away. When Pip woke properly, pale artificial light was streaming through the hangar's overhead fixtures. Someone was whistling. The sound came closer and Pip pressed herself deeper into her hiding spot. Through the gaps in the grating, she could see a human walking across the hangar floor. Pip had never seen a human up close before. Mother had said they were new to this part of space, young species barely out of their home system, running small freight operations on the frontier because the established corporations wouldn't let them compete. In the core worlds, this human was tall and moved with easy confidence. He wore coveralls stained with grease and carried a toolbox in one hand. The human stopped near Pip's hiding spot and set down his toolbox. He pulled out some kind of scanner and started checking the equipment mounted on the wall above her panel. Pip held perfectly still. Her heart hammered so hard she was sure he could hear it. Now it's at you acting up, the human said to the machine. His voice was calm and deep. Let's see here. He worked for what felt like forever, running tests and making small adjustments. Pip watched his hands move. They were careful and precise, gentle. Even when he tightened the connection, he did it smoothly instead of forcing it. When he set down his tools, he placed them carefully instead of dropping them. Most species Pip had encountered treated their equipment like it was disposable, use it hard and replace it when it broke. But this human worked like he cared about the machines, like they mattered beyond their function. Pip's wing shifted slightly, and she froze. The human didn't seem to Notice, he kept working and whistling. That same simple tune. After a while, Pip felt her muscles start to relax. Despite herself, the human's presence wasn't threatening. He radiated a kind of calm focus that reminded her of Mother when she used to repair their nest's environmental systems. The human finished his work and stood up, stretching his back with a small grunt. He gathered his tools and Pip thought he would leave. Instead, he paused and looked around the hangar with a slight frown. He said to himself, could have sworn I brought the small wrench. He walked back toward where Pip was hiding. She pressed against the back of the maintenance space as his boots stopped right in front of her panel. Through the grating, she could see him looking around the floor. That's when Pip noticed the wrench. It was sitting just inside her hiding spot where it must have fallen when the human sat down. His toolbox. She had been so focused on staying still that she hadn't even registered it was there. The human crouched down, bringing his face level with the grating. Pip stopped breathing. For a long moment, they stared at each other through the metal slats. The human's eyes went wide with surprise. Then Pip's wing twitched involuntarily. From the cramped position, the wrench shifted. The small sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet hangar. The human didn't move, didn't shout, didn't reach for a weapon or call for help. He just stayed crouched there looking at Pip with an expression she couldn't read. Surprise, yes, but something else too, something that looked almost like concern. Hey there, the human said softly. You okay in there? Pip's claws scraped against the metal as she tried to push herself even further back. There was nowhere to go. She was trapped and discovered, and this was where everything ended. The human would call security. They would drag her out. Raiders would find her, or worse, the corporations would claim her as salvage. But the human just stood up slowly and took a step back from the panel. All right, he said in that same gentle voice, I'm going to leave you alone now, but I'm leaving this here. He reached into his toolbox and pulled out a bottle of water and a ration bar. He set them both carefully on the floor, near the grating where Pip could reach them. Then he picked up his toolbox and walked away across the hangar. Hey, but the door paused and looked back. My name's Roy, he called out. I'll be back tomorrow. Then he was gone, and Pip was alone with her confusion and her fear and the water and food sitting just beyond her hiding spot. Pip waited until the hangar lights dimmed for night's cycle before she touched the food. Even then, she watched the door for a full hour, convinced it was some kind of trap. Humans were supposed to be unpredictable. That's what the other species said, young and chaotic and impossible to read. But her stomach hurt too much to care anymore. She reached through the grating and dragged the ration bar inside. The wrapper crinkled loudly and she froze again, waiting for alarms or footsteps. Nothing happened. The hangar stayed quiet. The ration bar tasted like compressed nutrients and synthetic flavoring, but Pip didn't care. She ate it in tiny bites, making it last, savoring every morsel. The water came next. She had to work the bottle through the grating carefully, but managed to get it open without spilling much. The liquid soothed her dry throat and settled the worst to the hunger cramps. When she finished, Pip felt more alert than she had in days. The food helped, but it was more than that. For the first time since the attack on her nest world, she felt something other than pure survival instinct. She felt curious. Why had the human helped her? What did he want most? Species saw dragons as either myths or money. The raiders wanted their bones. The corporations want to study them. The religious cults wanted to worship them. Nobody just left food and walked away. Pip spent the night trying to make sense of it. She dozed occasionally, but mostly she watched and listened and tried to understand where she was. The Hangar belonged to a ship called the Frontier Runner, according to the labels on the equipment, a small independent freighter. Pip could hear the station's ambient noise through the hall, voices in the distance, the clang of cargo being moved, the hiss of airlocks. Cycling Frontier Station 7, she had seen the designation when she snuck aboard. It was far from the core worlds, far from the heavy corporate presence and the major trade routes. Out here the rules were different, looser or so Mother had said. When the hangar lights came back up to full brightness, Pip was ready to bolt. She had spent the early morning hours testing the maintenance shaft behind her panel, finding where it connected to the ship's internal systems. She had escape routes now. 3 different ways out if the human tried to trap her. Roy returned exactly when he said he would. Pip heard him whistling before she saw him, the same tune as yesterday. He walked into the hangar carrying his toolbox and a larger bag that smelled like food. He didn't approach her hiding spot right away. Instead, he went to the far side of the hangar and started working on one of the loading mechanisms. Pip watched him through the grating, confused by his behavior. He was deliberately giving her space, letting her observe him without pressure. After about an hour, Roy took a break. He sat down on a cargo crate and opened his bag. The smell of fresh food filled the hangar. Pip's stomach growled despite the ration bar from last night. Roy pulled out a sandwich and took a bite. Then he very carefully set a second sandwich on the floor halfway between his crate and Pip's panel. Brought extra, he said without looking at her, in case you're still hungry. He went back to eating his own food, completely relaxed, like having a dragon hiding in his hangar was the most normal thing in the world. Pip stared at the sandwich. It was closer than the ration bar had been. She would have to come out of her panel to reach it. Roy finished his sandwich and pulled out a data pad. He tapped at the screen for a while, reading something. Then he started talking, not to Pip directly, more like he was thinking out loud. So I looked up dragons last night, he said conversationally. Didn't find much. Most of the databases say your species is extinct. Some say you never existed at all, just legends and hoaxes. He paused. But you're real enough, I can see that. Pip's claws tightened on the grating. He had researched her. That meant he knew what she was worth, what the corporations would pay for a live dragon hatchling. The few records I found say dragons are from the outer reach. Roy continued. Nomadic, don't really have home worlds anymore, just nests scattered across the frontier. He looked up from his data pad, still not staring directly at her panel. The records also say your bones are valuable, something about unique mineral structures, good for high-end tech components. Pip felt her breathing speed up. Here it came. Trap the betrayal. She tends to run. That's why they hunt you, isn't it? Roy's voice was quieter now. That's why you're hiding in my maintenance panel instead of being somewhere safe. He sat down the data pad and stood up. Pip prepared to flee through the shaft, but Roy didn't move toward her. Instead, he walked to the hangar's main terminal and started typing. Pip couldn't see what he was doing from her angle. I'm logging. Some false sensor readings, Roy said. Station picked up some unusual bio. Signatures yesterday, they'll come. Asking about it eventually. I'm making. It looked like it was just environmental. Interference happens all the time out. Here on the frontier, Pip didn't understand he was hiding her presence. Why? Roy came back and sat on his crate. Again, this time he did look toward her. Panel, not aggressively, just meeting. Her eyes through the grating. Look, I don't know what you've been through, he said, but I know what it's like to have nowhere to go. I grew up on a colony. World terraform operation. Big corporation came in and decided our land was worth more than our contracts. Bought out the local government, kicked us all off. He shrugged, lost my family. In the resettlement system doesn't care much about people who can't afford lawyers. He was quiet for a moment. Point is, I get it. Sometimes you just need a place to breathe without someone trying to use you or sell you or move you along so you can stay here as long as you need to. I won't tell anyone. Pip stared at him. Her mind struggled to process what he was saying. No demons, no conditions, just an offer of safety. From a complete stranger. Roy stood up and grabbed his toolbox. I'm going to keep working. You can come out or stay hidden, whatever feels right to you. Sandwich is there if you want it. He walked back to the far side of the hangar and resumed his repairs. After a long time, Pip slowly pushed open the grating and reached out for the sandwich. Roy kept working and whistling. He didn't turn around or acknowledge her movement. Pip pulled the food back in her hiding spot. It was still warm. 5 days passed before Pip spoke to Roy. 5 days of watching him work. 5 days of accepting food he left for her. 5 days of slowly understanding that maybe possibly he meant what he said about safety. Her wing was healing. The tore membrane had started to knit back together, helped by the protein rich food Roy brought. Real meat now, not just ration bars. He never asked where she came from or what happened. He just worked and talked about simple things, the repairs he was doing, the stations he had visited, stories about cargo runs gone wrong in amusing ways. Out on the 5th day, Pip emerged from the maintenance panel while Roy was working, not all the way, just enough that her head and shoulders were visible. Roy glanced over, nodded once, and went back to calibrating a fuel line. Like it was completely normal. Getting braver, he said casually. That's good. Being cramped up in there can't be comfortable. Pip watched him work for a while, then in a voice rusty from disuse, she said, why? Roy paused mid-adjustment and looked at her properly. Why what? Why help? Pip's galactic common was accented but clear. Mother had insisted she learn it. You gain nothing, risk much. Roy set down his tools and wiped his hands on his coveralls. He moved slowly, keeping his body language open and non-threatening. Then he sat down on the floor, making himself smaller and less intimidating. I guess because it's the right thing to do, he said. You needed help. I could help. Seemed simple enough. Other species not so simple, Pip said. She pulled herself a bit further out of the panel. Her injured wings stayed tucked close to her body. Other species see profit, see you, see danger. Well, I'm not other species, Roy said. I'm human. We're pretty new to this whole galactic community thing. Maybe we haven't learned all the rules about who's supposed to matter and who isn't. Pip tilted her head, studying him. You know what I am worth. You research. I know what others think you're worth. Roy Corrected, that's different from what you actually are. Your person, a kid. From the looks of it, nobody should be hunted for what their bones are made of. Pip felt something tight in her chest. Loosened slightly. My name is Pip, Roy. Smiled. Nice to meet you properly, Pip. I'm Roy Anderson. I know you said 5 days ago, right? Sorry, wasn't sure if you were listening, always listening, hiding. Means listening. Pip paused. My mother taught me. Roy's expression softened. Your mother sounds smart, was smart. Past tense, raiders killed her, killed everyone. Pip's voice flattened. I escaped barely. I'm sorry, Roy said, and the way he said it made Pip believe he meant it. Not polite condolence, real grief for someone he never met. They sat in silence for a while, then Roy stood up and walked to his workbench. He came back with a medical kit. That wing healing okay? He asked. I'm not a doctor, but I know basic first aid. Could take a look if you want. Pip hesitated, then slowly she extended her injured wing. The membrane was still pink and fragile where it had torn, but the bleeding had stopped days ago. Roy knelt down and examined it carefully. Without touching, looks like it's mending well, he said. You heal fast, but you should probably avoid flying for another week or two. Let's strengthen properly. Cannot fly anyway, Pip said. Too small, too young. Flight comes at adolescence. How old are you? 3 cycles, 3 of your years approximate. Roy looked surprised. You're 3. That's really young, old enough to survive alone. Mother prepared me. Pip folded her wing back, but not prepared for kindness. Did not expect that. Over the following days, Pip ventured out more. She learned to anticipate Roy's schedule. He came to the hangar every morning and worked for several hours. Sometimes he ate lunch there, sometimes he left and came back later. He always brought food for Pip, always spoke to her gently, always gave her space to retreat if she needed it. Pip started helping in small ways. Her claws were perfect for reaching bolts in tight spaces. Her small size let her access areas Roy couldn't fit. He never asked for help, but when she offered, he accepted gratefully and showed her what needed doing. You're good at this, Roy said one day as Pip handed him a connector she had retrieved from deep inside an access port. Natural mechanic, dragons build, Pip said. We design nests, environmental systems, gravity regulators. We understand how things fit together. I didn't know that. The databases don't mention it. Databases written by others, not by dragons. They see what they want to see. Pip paused. They see bones and profit, not builders and families. Roy nodded slowly. Yeah, that's how it goes. Usually, people reduce you to what they can use you for. They work together in comfortable silence. Pip found herself relaxing in ways she hadn't since before the attack. The hangar felt safe. Roy felt safe for the first time in weeks. She wasn't constantly scanning for threats. That evening, as Roy was packing up his tools, warning klaxons suddenly blared through the station. Both of them froze. Roy pulled out his comm unit and checked the alert. His face went pale. What? Pip asked, fear spiking through her. Station security just posted a bulletin, Roy said quietly. They're looking for an unregistered biological entity. Someone reported unusual energy signatures in this section. He looked at Pip. Someone knows you're here. Pip's first instinct was to run. She turned toward the maintenance shaft, but Roy stepped in front of her, hands raised in a calming gesture. Wait, don't panic. We can Handle this how they will search, they will find, they will take, not if we're smart about it. Roy pulled up something on his comm unit. The Frontier Runner isn't the only ship in this hangar complex. I know the other crew's good people, humans mostly, a few others. They don't love station security poking around in their business. You want to move me? I want to hide you properly. Spread out the energy signature across multiple ships, make it harder to pinpoint. Roy started typing rapidly. I'm going to call in some favors, but Pip, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Pip looked at the maintenance shaft, her escape route, her safety. Then she looked at Roy, at this human who had fed her and protected her and asked for nothing in return. Yes, she said, I trust you. Roy smiled despite the tension. Good, then let's get you somewhere safe before security starts her sweep. Roy moved fast. Within 20 minutes, 3 other humans had arrived at the hangar. Pip watched from her hiding spot as they gathered around Roy, speaking in low, urgent voices. She recognized the type: freight crews, independent operators, people who lived on the edges of regulated space. This is serious, Roy, said a woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight braid. Her coveralls marked her as captain of a vessel called the Long Haul, harboring unregistered bioforms, carries heavy fines, maybe worse if they decide to make an example. I know bait, Roy said, but look at her. She's just a kid running from raiders. You really want to hand her over to the corporations? Bait glanced toward Pips's panel. Their eyes met briefly. Bait's expression was hard to read but not hostile. What's the plan? Move her between ships. Keep rotating the location so scans can't pinpoint her. If we spread the signature across enough vessels, security will think it's sensor ghosts. A younger man with dark skin and engineer patches spoke up. My ship's got heavy shielding or hauler modifications, could mask or readings better than most. Good, Davis. We'll start there. Roy looked around at the group. I know I'm asking a lot. If anyone wants out, no hard feelings. Nobody moved. Bates snorted like we're going to let some corporate hunting party push around a scared kid on our station. What kind of frontier trash do you think we are? The good kind, Roy said quietly. They worked out a rotation schedule. Pip would spend a few hours on each ship, moving through the hangar complex in a pattern designed to confuse tracking systems. Davis would take her first. His or hauler was docked 3 bays over. Roy came to collect Pip while the others went to prepare their ships. She had pulled completely back into the maintenance panel, overwhelmed by how many humans now knew about her. Hey, Roy said softly, I know this is scary, but these people are friends. They won't hurt you. Why they help? They not know me because I asked them to, and because most of us out here on the frontier, we've all been pushed around by someone bigger at some point. We look out for each other. That includes you now. Pip emerged slowly. Roy had brought a cargo crate with blankets inside. You'll need to ride in this between ships, just until we're sure security isn't watching the corridors. Pip climbed into the crate. It was cramped, but the blankets made it bearable. Roy closed the lid carefully, leaving small gaps for air. I'll be right here, he said. We're just going to Davis's ship. 5-minute walk. You'll be safe. The movement was disorienting. Pip felt Roy lift the crate and start walking. She heard the hangar door open, heard the ambient noise of the station corridor, voices in the distance, footsteps, the hum of air circulation systems, every sound made. Her tense, then Roy's voice cheerful. And casual, hey there, just moving some spare parts to Davis's holler. Different voice responded, station. Security, need to scan that crate, pips. Hearts hammered, she prepared to burst out and run, but Roy just laughed, sure thing, fair warning though, it's full of old hydraulic components, probably going to ping all kinds of weird readings from the lubricant residue. Scanner hummed over the crate. Pip held absolutely still, the blankets around her were thick, and Roy had mentioned something about lining them with thermal dampening material. She hoped it was enough. Yeah, showing some organic compounds, the security officer said. But looks like industrial contamination. You really should clean your parts before storage, Anderson. I really should do a lot of things, Roy agreed. Cleaning parts ranks somewhere below fixing my coffee maker, and above reorganizing my sock drawer. The officer laughed. Get out of here and tell Davis I said hi. They moved on. Pip didn't relax until she felt the crate being set down and heard a different voice. All right, coast is clear, Davis said. The crate opened and Pip blinked up at a new face. Davis smiled. Welcome aboard the Duster Runner. Not much to look at, but the shielding is solid. Over the next several hours, Pip moved between 4 different ships. Each crew welcomed her without question. They brought food. They showed her safe places to hide. They treated her like she mattered. Between moves, Roy explained what was happening on the station. Security was conducting random sweeps but finding nothing conclusive. The biosignature kept appearing and disappearing across different sectors, making it look like sensor malfunction rather than an actual organism. How long can we do this? Pip asked during one transfer. As long as we need to, Roy said, but there's a problem coming. Bait got word that the people who reported the signatures aren't giving up. They're bringing in specialized scanning equipment. Who reported? Roy's expression darkened. Bounty hunters showed up on station 2 days ago. They've been asking questions about dragons, offering rewards for information. Pip felt cold. They followed me, maybe, or they're just checking all the frontier stations. Either way, they're persistent. Roy helped her into the next crate. But so are we. The 4th ship was Bates. The long haul was bigger than the others, with actual crew quarters and a proper cargo hold. Bates showed Pip to a small storage room that had been cleared out. You can actually move around in here, Bates said. Get some proper rest. Roy says you've been cramped up for days. Why you do this? Pip asked. You not know me, risk much for stranger. Bates sat down on a cargo container, her weathered face thoughtful. You know what the corporations did to my home world. Strip-minded, took everything valuable and left the ecosystem poisoned. When my family tried to sue for damages, we got crushed under legal fees we couldn't afford. She looked at Pip steadily. The powerful prey on the weak everywhere. Out here on the frontier, we've all been the weak at some point, so when we get the chance, we protect each other. That's how we survive. Pip settled into the corner of the room, her wing tucked carefully. On my world, we say a favor creates a debt. I owe you, I owe Roy, I owe all the humans who help. You don't owe us anything, Bates said. Just maybe when you're older and stronger, you do that same for someone else who needs it. That's how it works. Bates left Pip alone to rest, but an hour later, urgent voices echoed through the ships. Corridor, Bait burst into the storage room. We got a problem, she said. The bounty hunters just got station authority approval to search every ship in this complex. They'll be here within the hour. The human crews gathered in Bait cargo hold for an emergency meeting. Pip stayed hidden in the storage room, but she could hear everything through the thin walls. 8 voices, now more humans, had joined to help. They've got legal authorization. Someone was saying corporate salvage claims say they have rights to any dragon biological material from the outer reach. Pips is not material, Roy said sharply. She's sapient. She talks. She thinks she has rights, not according to their paperwork. Bait replied. They're claiming all dragons from the destroyed nest worlds are technically abandoned property under maritime salvage laws. Pip felt sick. She had heard similar arguments before. The raiders who attacked her world had used the same logic. If a civilization was destroyed, anything left behind became salvage, including survivors. That garbage law, Davis said angrily. You can't apply salvage rights to living beings, even if the being species doesn't have official recognition in the Galactic Council. Another voice countered. Dragons aren't registered. No home world representation. No legal standing. Arguing continued. Pip pulled herself into a tighter ball. She had been foolish to hope there was no safety. The universe didn't work that way. The strong took what they wanted, and the law helped them do it. Then Roy's voice cut through the discussion, calm and determined. Then we give her legal standing. Silence fell. Someone laughed nervously. How exactly do we do that? Frontier Settlement Charter, Article 12. Roy said, any sapient being who seeks asylum on a frontier station has the right to apply for protected status. Station administrator has to grant a hearing within 72 hours. That only works if the administrator accepts the application. Bait pointed out, and our administrator is not exactly known for standing up to corporate pressure, so we make it impossible for her to refuse. Roy's footsteps moved closer to Pip's hiding spot. Pip, I know you can hear me. I need you to come out here. Pip hesitated. Then slowly she opened the storage room door and stepped into the cargo hold. 8 humans turned to look at her. She fought the urge to run. Roy knelt down to her level. I need to ask you something important. Are you willing to stand in front of the station administrator and claim asylum? It means going public. No more hiding. It could be dangerous. The hunters will see me. Pip said, yes, but they won't be able to touch you during a legal proceeding. Frontier law is clear about that, and if the administrator grants asylum, you'll have protected status. They'd have to fight it in court, which takes time. Time we can use to find a better solution. Pip looked around at the humans. They all watched her with expressions. She was learning to read determination, concern, something that looked like hope. If I do this, you all get in trouble, Pip said. They know you hide me, they punish you. Bait stepped forward. Let them try. We got our own lawyers. Frontier Station 7 has specific protections for independent operators. They can't just steamroll us without consequences. Why you risk this for me? Davis spoke up. Because it's right. Simple as that. The other humans nodded. Pip felt that strange tightness in her chest again, the feeling that made her want to cry even though she had no tears left after everything that happened. Okay, she said quietly, I do it, I claim Asylum, Roy stood and pulled out his comm unit. Then let's make this official. Bait, can you contact Administrator Carver? Already on it, Bates said, typing rapidly on her own device. Within 30 minutes they were moving through the station corridors. No more hiding in crates. Pip walked openly, flanked by Roy on one side and Bate on the other. The other human crews formed a protective ring around them. Station residents stopped and stared. Some pulled out recording devices. Word spread fast. That be by the time they reached the administrator's office, a crowd had gathered. Pip saw the bounty hunters immediately, 3 of them standing near the entrance with smug expressions. They wore armor and carried weapons openly, legal on a frontier station but intimidating. The lead hunter stepped forward as they approached. He was some species Pip didn't recognize, tall and angular with too many joints in his limbs. That's our salvage, he said to Roy. Hand it over and we won't press charges for theft. Her name is Pip, Roy said calmly. And she's not salvage, she's a person seeking asylum. Doesn't matter what you call it. We have legal claim. Then you can present that claim at the asylum hearing, Bates said. Article 12 of the Frontier Settlement Charter guarantees due process. The hunter's face twisted with anger. You frontier trash think you can hide behind your local regulations? We've got corporate backing, real authority, and we've got jurisdiction, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Administrator Carver stood in her office doorway. She was an older woman, human, with iron gray hair and an expression that suggested she had dealt with difficult situations before. This is a registered frontier station operating under independent charter, Carver continued. Corporate authority ends at the docking ring. Here I make the decisions. She looked at Pip. You're the one seeking asylum. Pip stepped forward, forcing herself not to show fear. Yes. My name is Pip. I am survivor of Nest world destruction. I claim asylum under Frontier Settlement Charter. Carver studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Asylum claim accepted. Hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 1000 hours. Station time. Until then you're under station protection. She looked at the hunters. Anyone who interferes with an asylum claimant will be removed from the station. That clear? The lead hunter's face went dark with rage. You're making a mistake, Administrator. Our corporate sponsors won't forget this. I've been threatened by better people than you, Carver said flatly. Get out of my corridor. The hunters left, but their expressions promised this wasn't over. Carver gestured for Pip and the humans to enter her office. Once inside, Carver sat behind her desk and looked at them all. You realize this is going to get complicated. Corporations have lawyers, good ones. This asylum claim might not hold, but it'll slow them down, Roy said. By us. Time for what? Roy looked at Pip, then back at Carver. Time to prove she deserves protection. Time to show the galaxy that dragons are people, not property. Carver leaned back in her chair. You're asking me to take on corporate interests for one dragon hatchling? Yes, Roy said simply. That's exactly what I'm asking. Carver was quiet for a moment, then she smiled slightly. Well, I didn't become a frontier administrator because I like playing it safe. The hearing room was packed. Pip had never seen so many different species in one place. Station residents filled every seat and lined the walls, humans mostly, but also others who called the frontier home. They had come to watch, to witness, to support or oppose. Pip couldn't tell which yet. She sat at a table with Roy and Bate. Across from them sat the bounty hunters and their lawyer, a sleek corporate representative who looked like he had never set foot on a frontier station before. Administrator Carver presided from a raised platform, her expression neutral. The corporate lawyer spoke first. His voice was smooth and confident. This is a simple matter of salvage rights and property law. My clients hold legitimate claim to all biological material from the destroyed outer reach nest worlds. The dragon in question originated from one of those worlds, therefore it falls under salvage classification. She has a name, Roy said quietly. Pip, the lawyer, ignored him. Furthermore, dragons lack official recognition by the Galactic Council. Without recognized sapient status, the creature cannot claim asylum. Carver looked at Pip. Can you speak for yourself? Pip stood up. Her legs shook, but she kept her voice steady. I am Pip. I am 3 cycles old. My mother was named Scattered Starlight. She taught me to build and repair. She taught me Galactic Common and 5 other languages. She taught me mathematics and navigation and how to read stellar charts. She paused before she died. She taught me how to survive. Those are not things you teach to property. Murmurs ran through the crowd. The corporate lawyer frowned. Trained responses. Many species can be taught to mimic sapient behavior. Then test me, Pip said. She felt anger rising hot and unfamiliar. Give me problems to solve. Ask me questions. Let me prove I am person, not thing. Carver nodded slowly. That seems fair. Does the opposition have any objection to a cognitive assessment? The lawyer hesitated. He hadn't expected Pip to challenge him directly. I suppose not. For the next hour, Carver asked Pip questions, math problems, ethical scenarios, technical challenges. Pip answered them all, drawing on everything Mother had taught her and everything she had learned from watching Roy work. She explained mechanical principles. She solved logic puzzles. She discussed philosophy and morality. The crowd grew quieter as the assessment continued. Even the corporate lawyer looked uncomfortable. Finally, Carver held up a hand. I think we've established cognitive capability. The question now is legal standing. She looked at the lawyer. You claim dragons aren't recognized as sapient by the Galactic Council, but frontier stations operate under different jurisdiction. We have the authority to grant protection to any being we determine is sapient regardless of council recognition. That authority has limits, the lawyer argued. You can't override corporate salvage claims, can I? Carver pulled up a document on her screen. Frontier Settlement Charter. Article 17, quote, no sapient being shall be classified as property or salvage while under frontier jurisdiction. This supersedes all external claims, including but not limited to corporate interests, military orders, and religious authority. Lawyer's expression went cold. You're setting a dangerous precedent. Administrator, if every frontier station starts granting asylum to corporate assets, the economic framework of the frontier will collapse. Corporate assets, Bates said, standing up. Listen to yourself. You're calling a child an asset. The law doesn't recognize emotional appeals, the lawyer said, but it recognizes sapient rights, Carver replied, and I'm recognizing them now. Pip, do you wish to claim formal asylum? On Frontier Station 7, yes, Pip said. Clearly, then, as administrator of this station, I grant your request. You are hereby under station protection. All claims to your person or biological material are void while you remain in Frontier jurisdiction. The corporate lawyer stood abruptly. This isn't over. We'll appeal to the sector courts. We'll bring this to the council if necessary. You do that, Carver said. It'll take months, maybe years, plenty of time for things to change. The lawyer and bounty hunters left in angry silence. Moment they were gone, the crowd erupted in cheers. Pip found herself surrounded by well-wishers, humans patting her shoulders, other species offering congratulations. It was overwhelming. Roy guided her out of the hearing room and back to the hangar. The Frontier runner felt like home now in a way nothing had since the attack. Pip climbed into a maintenance panel, not to hide, but because it felt comfortable and familiar. You did good, Roy said, sitting on the floor nearby. Really good. The lawyer was right, though. Pips said they will appeal. They will not stop. Probably not, but that's a problem for tomorrow. Roy smiled. Today you're safe. That's what matters. Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Other dragons started appearing on the station. Young ones, mostly survivors like Pip, who had heard rumors of a safe place, a place where humans would protect them. Roy's hangar became an unofficial sanctuary. He taught the young dragons about mechanics and ship repair. They taught him about dragon culture and technology. Bait donated space on her ship for temporary housing. Other human crews volunteered resources. Word spread across the frontier. More stations began granting asylum to dragons. The corporations fought it in court, but the legal battles moved slowly, and every day they delayed was another day. Dragons could live without fear. Got Pip's wing healed completely. She grew stronger. She learned more about human culture and fell in love with their strange tendency to help without expecting anything in return. It wasn't universal. Some humans were just as cruel as any other species, but enough of them were kind that it made a difference. One evening, Pip and Roy sat in the hangar, watching the stars through the viewport. A new arrival had come that day, a tiny dragon hatchling, barely old enough to speak, found hiding in a cargo container. Pip had helped calm the frightened baby and show her the safe spaces in the hangar. You're good at this, Roy said, taking care of the young ones. I remember being scared, Pip said. I remember hiding and thinking no one would help. I want them to know different. I want them to know about kindness. Your mother would be proud. Pip felt that tightness in her chest again, but it didn't hurt anymore. It felt warm. I think she would. Like you, she always said the universe was bigger than we knew, that somewhere there must be species who valued life over profit. She looked at Roy. She was right. Roy smiled. We're not perfect. Humans mess up plenty, but we try. That's got to count for something. It counts for everything, Pip said. Below them in the maintenance bay, the new hatchling was sleeping peacefully, wrapped in blankets Roy had provided. Safe, protected, part of a community that wouldn't let her be reduced to salvage or property. Pip understood now what Mother had been trying to teach her. The universe was cruel, yes, but it also had spaces of kindness, places where people cared, and once you found those spaces, you protected them, you made them bigger, you invited others in. The hangar had been hiding place, now was a home, and Pippa makes sure it stayed that way for every dragon who needed